Okay, we are on. Good afternoon and welcome to this Zoom session that we are having. My name is Simon. I work with Media Focus on Africa. And we are doing this in celebration of the International Women's Day. And I have a team from Media Focus on Africa here, and also some wonderful ladies here who are leaders in their own rights, who will be introducing themselves shortly. And so before we begin, I'd like to ask my team from Media Focus on Africa to briefly introduce themselves. Then we'll move on to our guests today. We begin with Freni.
Hello, my name is Freni Joey. I work at Media Focus in Africa. My work mainly is around media and journalism, and at Media Focus in Africa, we try our best to ensure that women get to put their voices out there, women get to be heard, and women get to do everything else just like everybody else in the society is having an opportunity to do and to achieve.
All right, thank you, Freni Joey. My colleague Harrison, please introduce yourself.
So my name is Harrison Manga, who work at Media Focus on Africa. Yeah, and it's a pleasure to be here to engage in this conversation, even as we look forward to celebrating Women's Day for 2021. So thank you very much, and I look forward to what is going to take place.
All right, thank you, Harrison. Now to our guests, we have wonderful ladies here, as I mentioned before. They were all part of our program, Miss President, which whose link we will share as we share this session on our social media platforms. But I am sure many of you who will watch this are aware of what Miss President is all about. But before we go into all that, I would like also now our guests to introduce themselves, and I'll begin with Linet. Briefly introduce yourself, and then we move to Betty, and finally Zani will introduce herself, and then we'll begin our conversation for today. So Linet.
Thank you, Simon. My name is Linet Mavu. I come from Taita Taveta County and was Miss President 006. I'm happy to be here. I work for Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, an organization that ensures that there is harmony between the two levels of government, the national government and the 47 county governments. Apart from that, I am a leader in my community because I run different initiatives in my community in Taita Taveta. And it's a pleasure to be here and to get involved in this conversation for International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Linet. Betty.
Thank you very much, and happy International Women's Day to everyone and every woman across the world. My name is Betty Adera. I live in Nairobi. I am a finalist at Miss President show and representing Nairobi City County. And outside of that, I work for an organization called PCI, Project Concern International, as a senior technical advisor for HIV, AIDS, and health, advising various countries and various governments insofar as health is concerned, especially HIV and now COVID-19. But more importantly, I am founder of Betty Adera Foundation, an organization where once I found my own voice, my job there is to help other women like me and girls and youth find their own voices as well. We focus on prevention, mitigation, and response to all forms of gender-based violence and just restoring dignities back to the people as well as productivity into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Zani Kwale, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Simon, for the introduction. Thank you for the invitation to be here. Happy International Women's Day, everyone. So my name is Zani Kassim Zani. I'm from Kwale County, and I was representing Kwale County in the Miss President show. The founder and president of the Hijabi Mentorship Program. The Hijabi Mentorship Program is a young women-led community-based organization in Kwale County that champions for gender equality with a specific focus on sexual reproductive health and rights, gender-based violence, and economic empowerment of vulnerable young people, specifically focusing on women, because women is my passion, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, to improve the quality of lives of young women and girls from Kwale County and most likely globally someday. So thank you for the invitation. I'm so happy to be here and I look forward to a very interactive engagement. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Zani, and thank you, ladies. Before we begin, the conversation around the theme of the International Women's Day, I think it would be good to also celebrate the leadership journeys. You're all leaders in your own rights. So let me begin again, just in the order which I went before, starting with Linet. I know Miss President was a national platform that brought some of you to the national stage, and many people are able to know who you are and what you do. But I know your journeys began before that. But Miss President also has contributed towards that and propelled that in a certain way. I would just like to hear briefly from you, Linet, what has been, how your leadership journey has been, of the challenges that you have had to overcome, where you are, and where you look for, and how, what you see the future holding. And then we'll move on again to Betty and Zani, and then we begin the discussion for today.
Thank you, Simon. Actually, as you rightfully said, Ms. President came in 2018, 2019, and helped me a great deal, especially on, being able to showcase some of the things that I do. But before that, there are many things that I had been doing before. I am an employee of government. I have worked for government for many years, I think over 20 years now. I started as a secondary school teacher back in 1995 and worked for around 12 years before I moved to the Ministry of Local Government, where I was employed as a senior administrative officer. Then later on, I worked in Mombasa Municipal as a chief public relations officer. And at the onset of devolution, then I decided to learn a lot about devolution. So I was appointed as a CEC for devolution for Taita Taveta County in 2013, sorry. So I was the first CEC for Taita Taveta County for devolution and administration. And thereafter, of course, after my first 5 years of contract in 2017, 2018, 2019, I was doing a lot of community work after I finished my contract. And in 2020, then I was appointed by the president to the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee. But before that, I was also doing a lot of community work. For example, when I was a teacher, I started an initiative in Taita Taveta branch called Pan-African Christian Women Alliance, where we brought women from different churches just to come and empower them so that they can be able to participate in their churches as well as in their homes as leaders in their own rights. And up to now, I am happy that this organization was able to pick up in Taita Taveta, and we have over 40 churches that are still participating in Pan-African Christian Women Alliance in Taita Taveta County. Of course, we have the global PACWA, it's called PACWA, but in Taita Taveta branch, I think I initiated that movement. I also started other initiatives. I started an initiative called Land Residents Association after learning a lot about devolution and how our new constitution had empowered communities to be able to make their own decisions regarding development that concerned them. I decided to start an initiative called Land Residents Association and brought together people in my village to be able to do their own initiatives and not necessarily to look at government, but to look at government as a facilitator, but for them that they are able to do their own initiatives. And Land Residents Association started in 2017 with about 100 families. And so far, it has achieved a lot. And it is a role model in Taita Taveta. We have been able to plant over 1,000 trees. We have transformed the community. We have greened the community. We have also been able to do some street lighting, solar street lighting in our community, in our village, an initiative where the residents decided to fundraise and put up security lights. We have also been able to ensure that every home has a fruit tree in an initiative which we called one tree, one home, one fruit tree in every home. So people were able to initiate this, and last year people harvested a lot of pawpaws from Land Residents Association initiative. We have also been able to empower our primary schools. We do prize giving ceremonies for the primary schools around there. We've planted so many trees in these primary schools, in the churches. And really for me, that is a very big success story, because the people have realized that they don't have to sit and wait for government to do for them things they can do on their own. In 2019, the same community was able to come up with their own ranch for goats. And right now the ranch is running, courtesy of Land Residents Association. And we also do some fitness. We started a fitness club for the women, just to release stress, that every evening they go to church and dance. They just dance and dance. And that in that way, they're able to release a lot of stress. So that is one initiative. But apart from that, I have other initiatives that I'll be talking about as we go on. After Miss President, of course, I was empowered to start another initiative that I want to speak about maybe later on.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Betty, just briefly.
Thank you very much. Like you correctly said, when I walked into the gates of Miss President contest, I came in with something of value that I was able to share with the organization and with my fellow women leaders who were there. But when I walked out of Miss President, I walked out very fulfilled. I walked out with a basket full of things that I thought I knew, but I didn't know, but I learned them in great detail. And I have taken every single day of my life post Miss President to try to put them into practice. And as such, that has resulted in expanding of my foundation, the Betty Adera Foundation, now not only in Kenya, but in Tanzania as well, and soon in Malawi and Zambia as well. And that part of why that I have reached there is because of what I learned in Miss President. But having said that, soon after Miss President, and following the fact that by God's grace, I was able to be one of the top 5 finalists, I got invited into several other leadership spaces. A letter just came from nowhere nominating me to be the patron of Young Women Forum in Africa, where right now we have a constituency of over 24,000 young women across Africa, and out of which 13,000 are in Kenya alone as we speak. And in that space, I'm able to touch them in various ways. They're able to touch and access my experience and what I've learned, and use that in their own leadership spaces in various fields. I've been able to be graciously, accorded some international awards that acknowledge the work, the humanitarian work that we've done in our foundation. So I'm the Global Icon Award winner by Passion Vista, that gave me the opportunity to be on a global, on the front page of a global magazine for the first time in my life. I won the Humanitarian Medal of Honor by the World Peace and Diplomacy Organization, and several others. And even here in Kenya, I was nominated by the Kenya Film Classification Board, which is a government institution, to be their national clean content ambassador, using the talent nurturing program that we have at the foundation to reach out to young people in the creative arts. So what have I done beyond that? Beyond that, and following the fact that I am Miss President, Nairobi County, within my political party, I have also grown. I was the only woman who was nominated into the Building Bridges Initiative subcommittee secretariat within that political party. And I've also been nominated to be the lead of the Policy and Research Committee that is tasked with the responsibility of developing training manuals for women and aspirants, to be specific. And a lot of what I learned in Miss President have been put into practice. And last but not least, I was recently a contestant in the Nairobi gubernatorial vacant towards the end of last year. And in as much as it never went to a full by-election, the fact that I was in Miss President gave me the courage to be able to throw my candidature, out there, and I learned a lot in that process. It has not been smooth sailing, regardless, and some of the challenges I face myself, even as a woman leader, even as Miss President, I have to face every day the stereotypes around the narrative that women need to be helped, that women are always waiting to be helped. Women are weak. Women can't do anything by themselves. Except there's a man around a woman, there's no way a woman can succeed. And I struggle with that every single day, trying to break it, trying to challenge it. And of course, the whole spectrum of violence against women, not only physical or sexual, but even emotional violence, economic violence that they experience every single day. And I'm thinking that that's conversation, a whole conversation for another day. And I'm happy to share more about that as we go forward.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you so much. I think some of the things you and Linet are raising, some of the things we'll also be discussing when we start talking about what we need to challenge, as we push for gender equality and platforms for everybody to participate meaningfully in the society, more specifically women. So thank you for that. I'm going to now ask Zani to also do that briefly. And then after Zani speaks, I will now hand over to Harrison to lead us now in the next section, as we now discuss the theme of International Women's Day, used to challenge. So Zani, please go ahead.
Thank you, Simon. First of all, I'd just like to appreciate the inspiration and the motivation that I'm getting right now having this platform with these amazing women leaders. I'm honestly very much motivated, to be honest. As most of you are aware, when I joined Miss President, I was actually transitioning from my production or journalism, social change directly into an organization. Growing up in Kwale County, in a very marginalized community, underserved, where cultural barriers and deep-rooted historical issues and cultural norms really bring us down as young women in my community. And that is why I actually pursue communication, because I'm very passionate about using the power of communication to create transformative social change. So when I was in campus is when I started my journalism show, where I used to have conversations about empowering women in marginalized communities. But when I was joining Miss President, I was actually transitioning from the journalism segment directly into the community, because at a point I felt like the people, the women that I'm actually targeting are women who are not even available on the internet where my show was being showcased. And I felt like, I want to reach these people directly. Some of them don't even have smartphones. Some of them don't even have phones. Some don't even have internet. So I was transitioning from that directly into an organization, which is the community-based organization. And I remember being in Miss President, and I was actually in my final year in campus. And one thing that I learned from that show is, as young female leaders, there are going to be a lot of perspectives about you. A lot of people are going to assume that you're inexperienced. A lot of people are going to assume that you're not informed, especially in the sphere of leadership, which is mostly dominated by men. But then I was challenged by these great women, who some of them are seated right in front of me, that if they could do this, if they could achieve the milestones that they have achieved and reach the great heights that they have reached, then what is stopping me? And each time I would sit with Linet and Betty, they would be like, you are so young. You have so many obstacles to overcome, but you will, because if we did, then you most definitely will. And that was such a major inspiration for me, because honestly speaking, Miss President was my first training in leadership. Let me just start by saying that. And it provided me the first segment into growing, into understanding administration of an organization, into understanding running it, into understanding policy making. And, this was very new for me. And after that, it was a challenge for me to go out there and gain more knowledge and acquire more of that, which is why when I finished Miss President, I applied for different leadership opportunities to advance my knowledge. I managed to get into the Mandela Washington Fellowship in the United States. I managed to get into the Acumen Fellowship. I got into the Political Leadership and Governance Fellowship, Binti Uongozini, and so many numerous fellowships that have really shaped me to become who I am, to a point where I would say I'm very proud at how much we've achieved as an organization. We've reached a different, a bigger impact than when we started. And now we're looking at scaling, not just in the small, in Matuga constituency, but to reach bigger constituencies. And currently we're actually working on launching a generation equality project that is mainly focusing on sexual reproductive health and rights and gender-based violence, just to remind other young people, other young women who are out there, that if I could get to where I am right now, then nothing is stopping them. We are unstoppable. So we choose to challenge, just like the theme says. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zani. Very inspiring, and I think your stories are very inspiring, like Zani is saying. And Zani was one of the few young ladies at the Miss President Academy. And for sure, these are the kind of women who are coming up in leadership. Then the future is good for this country, and it's good to highlight and to showcase them. As she was saying, people out there a lot of times confuse young age with inexperience, with lack of knowledge. But people like Zani are there to prove them wrong. So thank you for sharing your inspiring stories and your journeys. I would like now to hand over to Harrison. Please help us now as we move on to the next step of this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I think you've already done a very good job. I think we already sort of in deep into the discussion as we think about the International Women's Day 2021. I think first for me, and as has been underscored by the organizers of the International Women's Day, one of the things we need to constantly do is to celebrate the women among us and around us, yes, and the achievements that they're making. And I think three of you are women who are worth celebrating. And I think in part, having this conversation with you today is an acknowledgement by us that you are doing great. You're challenging the status quo in terms of gender equality. You're pushing the envelope. You're pushing back against stereotypes, be they religious, be they cultural, be they historical. You're pushing against stereotypes in your own ways. And therefore, you're people that are worth celebrating. So I think for me, the first point that I would like to underscore is that you, Linet, Mavu, is that you, Betty Adera, and that you, Nzani Kassim, are three women who are doing fantastic work in terms of challenging the status quo with regards to gender equality. And you are three women who are rightfully worth celebrating. And having you participate and engage in this conversation, even as we look at the International Women's Day for 2021, is our small little way, really, of celebrating you and acknowledging you and urging you on. So I think I just wanted to put that out, even as we carry on. I know we don't have forever. Our time will soon be out. So I just want to ask a very simple question, really. So listening to the three of you, I am just wondering, from your own unique perspectives, experiences, and your own contexts, what are some of the gender equality issues that you're having to challenge, regularly? So I'll start with you, Linet. In your work at IGRTC, are there gender equality issues that you are challenging, that you are pushing back against? And then I'll put that question to Betty, and I will also put it to Nzani. So let's start with you, Linet. Just at your workplace, every day as you go to work, are there things that you're pushing against with regards to gender equality?
Yes, indeed, the struggle continues for women to find their space. In my working environment, we are 4 women and 4 men. The 8 of us were, appointed to work at IGRTC as members. We call them members or commissioners. So we are 4 men and 4 women. And really, there are still stereotypes among men sometimes, you know, where men would feel like they need to make decisions and then we just listen and follow. But for us, and I thank the other women, we don't just sit, we also voice out and we make sure that we are heard and we make sure that our decisions are also put in perspectives. So we don't just keep quiet, we make our points and our decisions, we put them on the table, rightfully on the table, and constantly reminding everyone that we are equal in this board. Yeah. And that I have done even when I was also a CC. I think I was also appointed as CC. We were the minority, 3 versus 7. And initially it would be like, you know, when issues like, you know, giving tea, you know, can a woman give us tea? And we would say, no, we are all equal here and we need to respect each other because we are all mawaziri at county level. You know, the fact that we are women does not put us in a position of, you know, managing the kitchen issues at work. So yeah, we have to assert our authority, and I have been doing that. And I thank God because men are now beginning to understand that women are fighting for their space. So it doesn't just come, you need to fight for it. You need to voice out, you need to make your point understood, and you need to assert your authority as a woman at workplace.
Yeah, thank you, Linet. It's interesting, the example that you've chosen, that one of you're in a boardroom for a meeting and there's tea somewhere at the back. And the natural assumption is that the women who are part of the meeting will be the one to step back and serve people. Interesting. Betty, where you are, whether it's at your foundation or at, I forget the name of the organization that you work for, PCI, if I'm not wrong. Are you pushing against any types of gender stereotypes on a daily basis, on a regular basis? And if there are, maybe just highlight 1 or 2.
Betty, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, it's PCI. And at PCI, my work is mainly virtual, so I'm by myself. However, I want to draw examples from my foundation. Every single week, a day does not pass when someone walks in and meets me and still wants to see the director of the organization. And I ask, but why? What is it? If you have an issue, you just say the issue to anyone you found. And then, you know, you should be able to get someone to navigate you through a problem-solving, process. And they say, no, nataka tu kumwona mkubwa. I want to see the boss of this organization, and they're talking to me, all right? So when eventually they realize it's me, you know, like shock on them, shock, really big shock on them. They don't expect it to be a woman. And there's one guy who literally walked away because he came to see a boss who should be male, and his issue, he could only discuss it with the boss who must be a man. And he walked away. And of course, people have free will to take decisions of the activities that they want to do. So I face this almost every day, everywhere where I've reached. I've also had, you know, occasions when the people tell me that show should not have been Miss President. It should have been Mr. President, because Kenya will never be, and Kenya has never been, and Kenya will never see, you know, a woman president. So it is not about the capability of the woman. It is just because to some people, the stereotyping is that it is just wrong, you know, to be a woman. It's just wrong, you know. However qualified you are, however experienced you are, just that you're a woman, you're not good enough, or you should not be the one, you know, occupying that particular space. And every single day, even in my own interactions with people, at our foundation, we respond to all forms, you know, of gender-based violence. And in many cases, it is the women and girls who have been violated by a boy or a man somewhere. All right. And we're beginning to think and work around the fact that, hey, it's a high time we started bringing and engaging the men and the boys, you know, to be part of the solution. And I have sat in some of the initial meetings, and I have had to tell myself, Betty, you have to really be patient, because when we open up the space for conversations, the men and the boys are so real as to where the issues really are. First of all, there's common narrative that, like I said earlier, women are weak, they are delicate, they need to be helped, they need to be rescued from some situation. They cannot lead. Leadership is not a woman's thing at all. In fact, a woman's place or a girl's place in this day, the year 2021, should be and is the kitchen. So the women should just do kitchen work, caring type of work, childbearing type of work, family care type of work, and even if they have to get a job and do some work outside of the home, it has to be along those lines. So when you start talking of a woman CEO, they look at you like, huh? Where on earth is this one coming from? But the beauty of it all is, once we have these spaces open, create a safe space for open and honest dialogue, then we are able to get into the mind and the thinking of the male gender out there, getting it to understand, where they're coming from, with the way they think, in terms of why they think the way they think, because they believe that any slight empowerment to a woman, you're breeding a human being who will be tough-headed, who will not be able to be told, who will get out of control and all that. So women are just supposed to be just down there and just stay there. So again, it's our role, all of us, to be aware of all this, and to figure out ways in which we want to bring everybody concerned around the table for an honest dialogue, but hoping that after that dialogue, then there are tangible proportions of solutions then that would be put in place, because you can't address gender-based violence against women if you are eliminating the boy and the man. The boy and the man, it's a high time they be brought in the front of the room and be removed from the back of the room. But the stereotyping continues, but it can change. Slowly by slowly, it is changing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Simon, I suspect that what is likely to happen is that we probably will need to come back for a third session to be able to properly close. As I hand over to Zani to also just give us her own experiences in terms of the gender stereotypes that she has to push back against on a daily basis as she goes to work. A little experience, I think the Media Focus on Africa team knows this story, but many years ago when I was in the university, I had gone home for the long breaks that usually are there, and at that time it was just me and my parents who were in the house. And as is the case with a typical village home, if you need to eat ugali, you need to carry maize and take it to the posho mill so that you grind it, and then you end up with maize flour. So me being the liberated guy that I think I am, I just told, there's no way my mother is going to be the one to carry the maize to the posho mill. So just, asked my mother to put the maize in the basket for me. I carry the basket, put it on my head, and I balance it, and I walk a distance of maybe 5 kilometers to get to the posho mill. But every time I passed a group of ladies, they would burst out laughing, like it was so humorous to them. I think, the typical thing that people would expect in the village is not to see a man, carrying a basket and balancing it on his head. But I didn't mind it, and eventually, by the way, it became something that I enjoy. But you see, it's in those simple ways that we can begin to challenge, these gender stereotypes. There's no way I would sit back at home and have my mother be the one, to go to the posho mill simply because I'm a man, and certain things, men are not supposed to do. So I can give other examples as well, but generally, I think it's important that we all, in our little ways, take little steps and do little things that begin to challenge the narrative of gender stereotypes and gender roles. And that way, collectively, over time, that's how we begin to change the whole question of gender equality. So coming to you, Nzani, what gender stereotypes are you? Yeah.
Allow me to just stop you there. I think we can take a short break right now, because the time remaining for this session will not be enough for Zani to share her experiences. So allow me to take a short break for now, and then right away we will begin the next session. And then Zani can share her experience, and then we'll be able to round off and finish.
Yeah.
So
just to say, when we come back, we will not
yes.
stay for too long. So
Yes.
Zani, when we come back, it will tell us your experiences in terms of the gender stereotypes you're pushing against. And then I'll just ask a very simple question to each of you to help us wrap up and come up with a way forward. So I think, thank you. Let's pause, let's end.
Yes.
When we come back straight away, we will get to Zani telling us about her experiences.
All right. Thank you, Alison, and thank you, everyone. So let me end this session for now, and then we'll be back in just a bit.
Oh.